Okay, it's Sunday, which means against my better judgment, it's time to go to Reddit and see what we can find in this hive of scum and villainy. So I've been to the Overwatch University subreddit ahead of time and just scraped all the questions off the first couple of pages. We're going to answer them now. Some footage of Grand Blue Fantasy Versus plays in the background because it's a better game than Overwatch. This is not me, by the way. I don't speak moon runes. The version of the game updated when I wasn't looking, so all of my replays are invalid now. So, I made it up to you by filtering it by people that played Luane, though, so, you know, it all works out. Also, I've started taking questions off the Discord server as well, so if you have any burning questions you want answered, go ask them in the Discord server. There's a channel set up. Doesn't really have to be about Overwatch, it can be about whatever, you know? Don't let me stop you. So, first off, and this is from the Discord, there's only one. We started doing it yesterday, alright? Whatever. Roadhog is now considered a truly trash tier hero. Is he actually that awful, or does he have a negative stigma, fairly or not, tied to him? I guess to expand further, how do you fix him? Is it as simple as an ult reduction nerf? This is news to me. I didn't realize that Roadhog had gotten the stigma of being trash tier attached to him. I don't follow very many sources of Overwatch news, to be honest with you. I just kind of do my own thing. But, yeah, I mean, I don't really have any problem with Roadhog, strictly speaking. I think it's just that, like, there aren't, like, the currently popular heroes don't exactly play well with Roadhog, you know? And by that I mean the people Roadhog is usually playing against right now are not really great for Roadhog. There's a lot of Reaper, you know? There's a lot of Mei. There's a lot of Doomfist. People he can't, like, really kill, but he can, like, disrupt them, but if Roadhog can't kill the guy, what's the point, right? He doesn't exactly have much utility attached to him, and he is, like, as far as I'm concerned, basically just outdone by Zarya, who has way better utility than Roadhog, and is, like, a better damage hero as well. Once Zarya builds up the charge, like, she's the best hero in the game, you know? So, she, like, and she's the one, like, it's like Ryan Zarya mostly right now, like, you know. That's kind of where Roadhog's at. I think he's more that he's outdone by other people. As for fixing Roadhog, I think Roadhog should just be able to no questions ask one-shot you. I don't think it should be like, as long as you aren't a tank, you know. Like, I think that Roadhog's damage, like, you can one-shot people right now as Roadhog, by the way, for the record. Roadhog can do it, but it's not free anymore. Like, this is one of the more commonly asked questions is how do you one-shot somebody as Roadhog now? So, I think he should just be able to no questions ask one-shot the person. I don't think it should be a matter of if Roadhog will kill the person. It should be Roadhog hook the person, they will die as long as they aren't a tank or somebody helps them. So buff his damage so that he can, like, no questions asked, kill a 200 health hero if he hooked them. No extra steps required. And I think he should be able to conditionally kill a 250 health hero as well. Like, I don't think that should be free, but I think it should be, like, right now, Roadhog doesn't always kill the 200 health hero. I think he should always kill the 200 health hero and sometimes kill the 250 health hero. I think we bump it up a little bit in terms of category right there. And then tanks don't die. So, like, buff his damage, or, like, you could, like, buff his damage enough so that it's no questions asked he does it. Or attach a property to the hook where Roadhog does amplify damage to the person he hooked for the next, like, 0.5 seconds or a second or something like that. Do something like that. Other than that, like, give him more utility, I guess. But, I mean, I don't know what you do in regards to that, really. Like, maybe you just, like that, when they had the 1-3-2 on the PTR, Roadhog had the AoE heal business going on. I think you could just put that on live Roadhog, and that would be fine, really. Maybe nerf his own damage reduction on it a bit or something, but, like, I think you could just put that take a breather change on live as it is right now, and that would be fine. That would also be good as far as, like, improving utility goes. Other than that, I don't know, like, how ready are we to, like, change Roadhog's kit, I guess, is the main question to ask there, because right now, his thing is he does damage. Do we lean into the damage and just make him do more of it? That'll fix the problem. Or do we go, no, he's a tank, he shouldn't be doing this much damage, in which case we have to wonder why we're okay with Zarya doing that much damage, but, you know. Do we go, Roadhog's a tank, he shouldn't do this much damage, in which case, well, alright, what do we give him in exchange? We could change his ultimate. Whole Hog's not a very good ultimate. I don't know what you do about that one, to be honest with you. Give him some damage reduction while he's channeling his ultimate, because he's kind of a big juicy target while he's using Whole Hog, really. Give him some kind of innate CC immunity when he starts using it, like, for the first second, he can't be interrupted or something. You know, otherwise, like, just change it. But as far as changing Roadhog's ult, like, shit, dude, I don't know. I've always liked the idea. I mean, I don't really want this to be on Roadhog, to be honest with you, because I've always envisioned this as being Junker Queen. I always wanted Junker Queen to be this inverse of Roadhog, where she can hook allies instead of enemies, right? And then she, like, swings them into it. You go, well, that sounds terrible. What if the Junker Queen starts trolling, right? Well, just make it so that it has to be in some way consensual. Let the person decide where they land, or something, right? Like, Junker Queen hooks them and then throws them, but then the person decides where they land. Easy. Like, maybe put that on Roadhog. Let him maybe hook allies, but at that point it makes it very difficult. Like, how exactly do you do that in terms of how it is? Because then you'd end up accidentally hooking allies all the time. So, I guess make it some kind of modifiable ability? I don't know, you know? We start getting kind of out there at this point. We're talking fairly sweeping changes to Roadhog's kit. I just think make it so he one-shots people. I don't think it should be a question of if he'll kill them. Unless they have more than 200 health or somebody helps them. Like Zarya bubbles them. It's pretty much what I got for you on that one, really. I don't really think he's bad, no. I just think that he's outdone by other heroes right now, so... You know... And then at that point, what you do... If my opinion is that, it depends on what you want to do... in terms of balance, right? Do you lean more on the side of people should be nerfed down to match them, or buffed up to meet the other person? I think power creep is something we have to worry about constantly, so I've always been of the mindset we should nerf other heroes down, rather than buff other heroes up, unless something is just fundamentally not working about the character's kit. So I think, rather than buff Roadhog, I'd rather nerf Zarya. Personally, but, you know, that's just me. Your opinion on that matter will, of course, vary. People generally don't like nerfs. They prefer for things to get buffed. Obviously, right? But there's a ceiling on that. You can't buff people up to match other people forever, because, the game starts getting, real stupid real fast. But, you know, sometimes you can't nerf people forever as well, because then the inverse happens. But to be honest, I didn't know you could do that. I just skipped that whole round. Wow. You can't nerf people down forever either, to be fair, but I think Overwatch has an issue where, generally, I think damage and healing in this game are too high, broadly speaking. I'd rather everything got nerfed down until things were more in line with how I want the game to be, which is much less burst damage and healing intensive. But that's me. You're free to have your own opinion on the matter, of course. But there you go. We spent enough time on that question that I don't really have a firm answer for. I think he's fine, but he's outdone by Zarya, is the short version. So, next up is a significantly simpler question. Can HANZO'S ult damage Baptiste's immortality drone? No, HANZO'S ultimate does not damage player-constructed items, so it does not break the... It doesn't break the lamp, it doesn't break the bongo, it doesn't break turrets, doesn't do anything like that, doesn't break teleporter. Player-constructed items are not damaged by Dragon Strike. Next up is, how does Mercy's damage boost work with projectiles? This was specifically asking in regards to, like, Pharah. Do you need to be damage boosting them when the rocket explodes, or when Pharah fires it? How does it work? With projectiles, Mercy needs to be damage boosting them when they fire the projectile, and then after that, it doesn't matter what Mercy does anymore. So if you're connected when Pharah fires her rocket, you don't need to, you can stop. Like, that rocket will now be damage boosted regardless, because it's left Zarya's gun. Like, Ashe throws her dynamite. If you're damage boosting Ashe when she throws the dynamite and then stop damage boosting her, the explosion will still do increased damage even though you're not damage boosting her anymore. It's purely decided when the projectile is fired. Next up is, when is a good time to Death Blossom? So Death Blossom is one of those ultimates that gets really fucked up by crowd control effects. So you're pretty much looking to use it when you're least likely to get crowd controlled, which is basically when the enemy team is distracted. Best time to use Death Blossom is pretty much when your team engages. The enemy team will be focused on your team at that point, and they'll be using their cooldowns on them. And then you come up behind the enemy team and use Death Blossom on their backline, who are the ones also most vulnerable to Death Blossom. And you're much less likely to get crowd controlled. Other than that, like, if you can communicate with your teammates, great, you know? Communicate with, like, your Zarya to have her bubble you when you use Death Blossom, then when they immediately use their crowd control, it won't work, and by the time the bubble is gone, you've probably killed enough people for Death Blossom to have been worth it regardless. And then, outside of those, like, you basically just need to keep track of the other people's crowd control abilities, because you don't need to wait for your team to engage, strictly speaking. If you see McCree use his Flashbang, and that's the only crowd control on the enemy team, you're now free to use Death Blossom on their back line, because all they can do at that point is kill you or get out of the way. Anna used her dart. Anna can't use it again. Time to use Death Blossom. You know, that kind of thing. So, those are like the best times to use Death Blossom, because your main fear is crowd control. And I mean, you know, don't use it when you're low health, because then death becomes a significant fear as well. You start healing, of course, but if you're low health when you start using Death Blossom, they might just finish you off before you have time to actually get the healing off, and then you're a very sad boy. But those are the best times to use Death Blossom. Next up is how to watch your own replays well. Of course, in reference to, I'm watching the replay. How do I learn anything from watching the replay, right? This was asking about Ryan specifically, and it did also ask if I should be in first person, third person, whatever. You should always watch the replay from, like, your own perspective, unless you're trying to figure out something that happened elsewhere. So you should always be watching from first person. The only reason to go third person is you're like, what was going on with X at the time, right? Like, I thought I was going to get helped by Zarya when this happened, but then she didn't. What happened? Did Zarya get fucked up, you know? I engaged, and then my team, or I got, like, 2 picks, and my team didn't do anything. What was happening with them, you know? And then you go and, like, confirm. Otherwise, just, like, being first person, like, you want to know what you were doing, right? What you could see, what you saw at the time. So the really obvious starting point is just go through and look at every time you died, and then ask yourself, well, what could I have done to avoid that, right? Which sometimes might entail going back a few steps to figure it out, because it might not be immediately obvious what you could have done. Because, you know, if you, like, missed your flashbang and, you know, and you died as a result, well, fair enough, right? But, like, sometimes the problem might have started a while ago. Like, if you're playing, like, Reinhardt, and you died, the answer could be you needed to manage your shield better, like 20 seconds prior, and that all cascaded into this thing happening right here. So you might need to go back a few steps, but that's the obvious starting point. Just look at all your deaths, and how could you have avoided it. After that, like, you're looking for, like, mistakes you made, which is, like, Like, I used my ult here and whiffed, right? How could I have been in a better position to have landed this, right? You know, something like that. Or, I ended up isolating myself from my teammates here. How could I have avoided that? You know, you didn't necessarily die for it, you know? How could I have avoided that? I'm playing, you know, Rhine and my teammates died behind me. How could I have done something to stop that from happening? You know, that kind of thing. Yeah, if your teammates died as well, just in general, like, could I have helped them in some way? Could I have prevented my teammates' death is also a good thing to just generally be thinking about when you're watching it. And then, like, the other you're obviously looking for your mistakes, but you're also looking for the opportunities that you missed at the time as well. Because when you're playing the game, you're thinking about a lot of things, you're gonna miss some stuff, right? But when you're watching the replay back, you no longer have to worry about playing the game, so you're now generally able to see a lot more shit going on. And you might see something that you missed at the time, like, in the moment, I was looking at their Reinhardt, say, but what I missed was that their Anna went off this way by herself, and I could have totally collapsed on her and killed her, and then we, like, up a man, they're down their support, you know? Or, I was looking over there at the time, and out of the corner of my eye, I could have totally seen this guy going around the back to flank us, and then, shit, I could have done something about that, I could have called it out, we could have collapsed backwards and got the guy, and then who knows, you know, maybe my teammates don't die, we get the pick on the guy because we fucking surprise him right as he comes around the corner, you know? You can see a lot more stuff going on when you don't have to worry about playing the game. So don't just look at, like, what you were looking at, look at everything now, right? Like, what was going on at the time that you didn't see in the moment. And then, when you're in a similar situation in the future, you're more likely to spot this opportunity that you didn't see that time. So, you know, that's the other thing, right? Like, obviously, mistakes, you're looking for those, that's the big stuff, but looking for stuff that the opportunities you missed at the time is equally important. And then as time goes by, you just sort of get better at doing it, you know? Once you're basically just thinking critically about it, like, alright, here was a mistake, how I avoid mistake, and then you go back as many steps as you need to fix that mistake. In general, also, like, don't fixate on things that happened at the end of the match as much as that happened early in the match. Don't worry about the last mistake, worry about the first mistake. Because if you avoid the first mistake, maybe you don't end up in the position where the last mistake mattered at all, right? You might not have been a classic example of, like, olden times Overwatch, when Mercy could res 6 people. Well, 5 people, she couldn't res herself. You would lose the round because Mercy went out to get the 5-man res and got clapped on her way out. And then people would go, Mercy, you threw the game! When that's the exact wrong stance to take on the matter, because instead of blaming the Mercy, you should be thinking, well, how could I have avoided being in a position where Mercy had to get a 6-man res or we lose, right? Like, what was the step I could have done earlier to avoid being in this position? So, you know, not to say completely disregard things that happen in, like, the last 25 seconds of the game, you know, but, like, worry about the early stuff more, because if you fix the early mistakes, the later mistakes maybe don't even come into play even remotely, right? But yeah, first person, unless you're checking something else, look at your deaths, look at your teammates' deaths, what could I have done to avoid that, and then look for opportunities you missed at the time. Oh fuck, I'm playing like a flanker, right, and I didn't see McCree use his flashbang right there, but if I saw McCree use his flashbang, I could have totally gone hard on him, killed him, free pick, then I move on to next, you know, you do that kind of thing. If you're playing like Genji, you know, you can worry about your ult, like, your ult execution is like a big deal, right? If you're playing an ult-heavy hero like that, you look at your ult and go, well, I only got, like, one person with Dragon Blade, so that's, like, not great, right? What could I have done to have made this ultimate more impactful, you know? Not every hero is super ultimate-based. Like, if you're playing Roadhog, right? You're like, alright, did this get them off me? You know, like, did I kill somebody with it? You're not worrying about it to a fine degree. But somebody like Genji, you might want to watch the whole ult back and go like, oh, I went for this guy first, and it took me a while to go for kill him, but if I went for this guy first, that would have been totally free, and then I can chain off of him to this guy, maybe this kill goes a little better at that point, you know, you can worry about it on a more fine degree, whereas someone like Roadhog or like McCree, you're literally just like, was this a good time to push the button, right? So you're not worrying about it as granularly as you might be for somebody like Genji. But that's like the best thing you can do, and then you just gotta get better at it as you go by, where you don't have to worry about, like, asking yourself that kind of question so much. And then something else to do is just kind of ask yourself, why am I doing this? Right? Just like, why am I doing what I'm doing right now? And ask yourself if you had a purpose in mind while you were doing it, right? Because if you were at a point in the game where you were not real, you were just kind of like doing stuff, you had no firm idea of what you were trying to accomplish at the time. So you were just kind of like, rolling around hoping something happens. Like, take that period of gameplay where you were unsure what to do, and decide, or try and figure out, like, what could I have been trying to do at that moment in time, right? So, like, if you're playing, like, a flanker, it's I didn't know what to do, I was just kind of, like, bullying their tank at the time. Well, now I can detach myself from the game and go, alright, well, what could I have been looking to do at this time instead, seeing as I was just, like, filling time right now? Was there something more productive I could have been doing? And that's like, why am I doing what I'm doing? What was the payoff for what I was doing versus the risk I was taking, you know? That kind of thing. This is getting more rambling and incoherent as time goes by. We're gonna stop and go on to the next one now. Next up is, what are disruption heroes? This guy was asking specifically after watching a YouTube video where they just said disruption heroes without further context. Obviously, I can't speak for the person in question, because I'm not them. People had really conflicting opinions on what disruption meant, though, in the comments to the thread. Someone said Junkrat, which, I guess, you know. Someone said Tracer, which I wouldn't consider Tracer a disruption hero either, really. There was some dissenting opinion on this matter. To me, disruption hero has always been someone that has crowd control. Like, you're disrupting what the other person is trying to accomplish with your crowd control. So for me, disruption heroes are Mei, McCree, Roadhog. You know, you could say Symmetra, I guess. She's a very disruptive force, I would describe her as, you know. Hammond is disruption, you know. Some people were just like, disruption equals dive. Not really. Because, like, this was when someone said Tracer was disruption, I really took offense to that one, because they went on, were like, your goal is not necessarily to kill the person, it's just to disrupt them. No, Tracer's goal is to kill people. Like, Tracer does a lot of damage. Like, Tracer is trying to kill people. Winston is trying to disrupt them. He's not necessarily planning to kill them. He's planning to annoy them and inconvenience them, you know. So, to me, it's always been heroes with crowd control. And then, broadly speaking, heroes that just have a tremendously obnoxious presence, like Winston. He doesn't really have crowd control, but you can't ignore him, right? Like, he is disrupting what you're doing. In his ult, he's got crowd control, but you get what I'm saying, right? He's not like Mei in terms of crowd control, but I would say he has a similar disruptive force, despite not having as much crowd control as Mei, just because he's being very annoying. So you could kind of take it two ways, but to me, when I think disruption heroes, I think Mei, I think McCree, I think Hammond. Yeah, I think heroes that have crowd control, basically. But at the same time, I have described Winston as being a disruption hero as well. So, you know, I'm an inconsistent bitch. But I definitely don't think, like, Tracer or Junkrat are disruption heroes. I get why you would consider them that. You know, I get the reason you get there, but I personally would not consider them to be disruption heroes. Zoe, new character, by the way, you might have noticed. pretty cool. She's a puppet hero. She does stuff with her dragon, so she's cool. Doesn't do it for me. Like, aesthetically, she doesn't do anything for me, and I don't like puppet-style gameplay in fighting games, but very unique hero. Arxis likes to do weird stuff, and, like, yo, having a pet's pretty weird, even though they exist in other fighting games. So, next up, and this is the last question for this week, is how do I improve with Zarya? So, step one is definitely focus on gaining charge, because getting high charge as Zarya is like step one on the flow chart. If you can't consistently get to like at least middle charge, not necessarily high charge, right? But like if you can't consistently get to like 40-50% charge or better, then like you need to address that issue, because low charge Zarya is like not even a threat, right? Like you can just like disregard that issue pretty much, and just ignore her pretty much. You can't like fully ignore her, but you can pretty much ignore her. But high charge Zarya, oh god, she's the best hero in the game. She fucking kills, she like bzzz, kills them to fuck. Just like spamming right click into people, you do a ton of damage if you're high charge. So like, and then cascading from that, her ultimate is obviously a very important aspect of Zarya. If you're constantly low charge, you are building your ultimate so slowly compared to somebody that is high charge. So focus on how you can get to high charge first. So that's step one on the Zarya flowchart. After that, ult execution is obviously a big deal for Zarya, you know. But this is one of those things where there's not necessarily deep analysis you put into it, right? It's not a Genji level thing you think about, but you do think, hey, I pushed Grav right here. Was this the right time to push Grav, you know? Were my teammates alive? Were they in a position to follow up, you know? You're worrying about it a little bit more than like Roadhog, which is just push the button or don't. You know, you're like, were my teammates in a position to follow up? Like, was this a good ult, but my teammates didn't follow up adequately? You know, were they in a position where they could feasibly follow up, you know? You ask yourself these kind of questions. But ult execution is a big step. And then Zarya players have this problem with having no self-control. Not to the same degree as like a Lucio player, who just wild fucking animals, but Zarya players have poor self-control. They have a tendency to think, I'm invincible because my bubble is up, and they go really far out to like try and kill somebody, but then they have to like walk all the way back again without their bubble, or their bubble just gets popped and then they get crowd controlled and killed. So you gotta have some self-control when you play Zarya. You're the best hero in the game when you've got fucking 100% charge, but you're also not invincible. You do still need to like worry about what you're doing, you know. There's stuff that broadly applies to every hero, but like Zarya players have a tendency to forget, like always play around cover, even if you are stood behind Reinhardt's shield right now. And this is good advice for everybody, but Zarya players forget, tank players forget to do this, but if you like Zarya as well, yeah. Play around cover, even if there's a shield in front of you, play around cover. You can't just like walk around an open space, because you die, or at the very least you feed a lot of ult charge, so don't do that. Always be playing around cover. Even if there's a shield in front of you, still play around cover. And that's good advice for everybody, but tank players forget to do that. They're like, I am cover. No, you still need to use cover. You still do need to use cover, actually. You can't, you're not just allowed to do whatever the fuck. And that's kind of it for, like, Zarya, really. You know, you can say, like, well, you know, target prioritization and stuff like that. But you can say that for literally every hero, you know. There is a thing where, like, Zarya is a tank, so when somebody dies, you should ask yourself, like, could I have stopped that, you know? Particularly an off-tank. Main tanks are worrying about the front line. As the off-tank, you have more of an obligation to be worrying about the back line, right? Like, if there's a flanker coming off to the side, like, it's your job to go deal with that. It's not Reinhardt's job to deal with that, right? If somebody is disrupting your back line, you should be trying to help with that. You shouldn't be expecting somebody else to do it. You, as the off-tank, should be working on that. Because it's the main tank's job to create space, and then it's the off-tank's job to secure that space. So you have to be the bodyguard. You have to be the bouncer. Genji's coming in here to bully Ana, you gotta deal with that shit, you know? You don't want to, I know, we'd rather be drilling a hole straight through the other person's head, but tragically, we have to go and help the backline as well. I know, unfortunate as it may so be. And that's kind of it. I don't really have anything else to say about Zarya, outside of stuff that you can say about literally any other hero, you know, like positioning, target prioritization, you know. Couldn't you say ult execution about every hero as well? Yes, but shut the fuck up, okay? Look, don't question me, even though that's literally the entire point. And so that's the last question, so we'll wait for this game to end here between Luane and Beelzebub, which has been a truly engaging game so far of two people that don't really know what they're doing, but they're doing a fairly convincing job of faking it at each other. You know, Beelzebub, he knows that his dive is plus, so he's pushed that button a few times. He's gonna teleport up to Luane. He could have just pushed a button. He could have gotten a combo off of that, but you know what he decided to do? He's just like teleport grab.
Why are you running?
Luane. Oh, shit.
Why are you running?
Oh shit, it's getting serious now. Shit. I've seen a GIF very similar to that. It couldn't have been this game. This game's not that old, but I've seen a very... He doesn't know you can't kill Luane while Yiggy is on the field. He doesn't really know what to do with Yiggy. He's just slapping a lot of keys. Oh, you hate to see it. You hate to see it. How very, very tragic. Oh. Anyway. So, thank you very much for watching if you did. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. More than happy to answer. Join our Discord if you have any questions you would like to see answered in the series. I start streaming on Twitch Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, 8 p.m. EST to 11 EST. There's links down in the description. Still not this week because I'm sick. Okay. And if you somehow managed to make it all the way through the video and somehow still enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe for more content of middling quality in the future. And I hope you found the video helpful.